He's just a man in costume playing statue. Watch this." Those were the last arrogant words of a fame-hungry influencer before his trained Akita attacked the tea house guardian. What happened in the next 30 seconds left millions of viewers speechless. Sometimes the most powerful lessons come from those who never say a word. Dawn's first light painted the ancient stones of Kyoto's Emerald Valley in shades of gold. The Shimizu Tea House, a testament to 5 centuries of unwavering tradition, stood like a silent sentinel among the swaying cherry blossoms. Morning mist curled around its polished ebony gates, where countless generations had passed through to witness one of Japan's most sacred ceremonies. The air carried the delicate scent of incense and early spring, creating an atmosphere that transported visitors to a world where time moved at the pace of tradition. Takeshi Yamamoto held his post with the stillness of a mountain, his indigo hakama crisp against the morning air. Before we jump back in, tell us where you're tuning in from. And if this story touches you, make sure you're subscribed, because tomorrow, I've saved something extra special for you. At 58, his weathered face told stories of 15 years serving as the tea house guardian, each line earned through unwavering dedication. The traditional woven hat cast subtle shadows across his serene features as he maintained his vigilant watch, protecting one of Kyoto's most revered cultural treasures. Around him, the morning crowd gathered like gentle waves against ancient shores. Photography enthusiasts positioned their cameras with careful precision, while tour guides spoke in hushed tones about ceremonies that had remained unchanged for generations. Their whispers created a respectful symphony that Takeshi had grown accustomed to over his years of service. The peaceful atmosphere shattered when a voice cut through the morning air like thunder in a clear sky. "Check this out. They've got actual human statues here." The voice, deliberately loud and dripping with mockery, belonged to Marcus Chen, a social media influencer whose presence demanded attention like a firework in a temple. His designer red jacket, worth more than most people's monthly salary, screamed for attention against the subtle elegance of the tea house. Marcus strutted through the crowd, his phone held high, live streaming his approach. 2 million followers and you won't believe what we found in Kyoto, he announced, his voice echoing off ancient walls. "These guys literally stand here all day pretending to be decorations. But don't worry, we're about to make things interesting." Takeshi remained motionless, his gaze fixed on the distant mountains as if they held secrets of the ages. His silence served as a powerful counterpoint to Marcus's growing theatrics. Years of training had taught him to observe everything while appearing to notice nothing, including the shifting energy of the crowd as the scene began to unfold. "Hey, statue man," Marcus called out, stepping closer to the boundary marked by centuries-old stones. "How about a little smile for my followers? Maybe a wave? Come on, this is social media gold." He laughed at his own jokes, his expensive camera swinging from his neck. "What's with this whole serious act anyway? It's 2025, not the Edo period." The crowd's reaction divided like oil and water. Nervous laughter rippled through some tourists, while others showed clear disapproval. Elderly Japanese visitors exchanged knowing glances, their whispers heavy with cultural understanding. Younger visitors raised their phones, anticipating viral content in the making. "Listen up, everyone," Marcus announced, his voice taking on a theatrical quality that seemed to mock the sacred silence. "Today, we're going to see what it takes to make one of these famous guardians break character. And trust me, I've got something special planned." His eyes flickered to his partner, who stood slightly behind the crowd, holding the leash of a magnificent Akita Inu. The dog's muscular frame and gleaming red coat commanded attention, its presence adding an unexpected element to the unfolding drama. Tension filled the air like electricity before a storm. Yet Takeshi stood unwavering, his composure a living testament to years of discipline and dedication. Only the most observant might have caught the slight narrowing of his eyes, a subtle acknowledgement of the challenge that was about to unfold. As the morning sun climbed higher, casting long shadows across the ancient courtyard, no one present could have predicted how the next few moments would unfold, or how quickly a lesson in respect would become a viral sensation that would shock millions. Marcus Chen's live stream numbers were climbing rapidly, Comments flooded his screen as he continued his theatrical performance in front of the stoic Tea House Guardian. The chat scrolled faster than he could read, filled with a mix of excitement, shock, and encouragement from viewers across the globe. 2 million followers, and today we're making history, Marcus announced, pacing back and forth like a showman on stage. See this, Guardian? Apparently these guys train for years just to stand still. Years. Can you believe people actually buy into this? His laughter echoed against the ancient walls, sharp and dismissive. The sound seemed to disturb the peaceful atmosphere that had permeated the grounds for centuries. The crowd had grown larger now, drawn by the spectacle like moths to a flame. Some Japanese visitors began quietly photographing the scene, their faces showing a mix of concern and disapproval. A group of elderly women in traditional kimonos whispered among themselves, one shaking her head sadly at the display of disrespect. Their whispers carried centuries of cultural understanding that seemed lost on the boisterous influencer. From the corner of the courtyard, a young Japanese student named Yuki Matsuda watched with growing concern. As an apprentice studying traditional arts, she understood the depth of dedication required to maintain such perfect composure. Her hands trembled slightly as she recorded the scene on her phone, knowing that such disrespect needed to be documented. Let's try something, shall we? Marcus moved closer to Takeshi, his phone camera focused on the Guardian's impassive face. Hey, Mr. Traditional, I heard you guys have some special training, but I bet it's all just for show. He waved his hand inches from Takeshi's face, the Guardian's expression remaining unchanged despite the clear provocation. The morning sun cast harsh shadows across Marcus's features, highlighting the smirk that seemed permanently etched on his face. Behind Marcus, his partner Jun Wong adjusted her grip on the Akita's leash. The dog, a champion show animal named Thunder, watched the scene with unusual intensity. Its muscular frame tensed slightly, responding to the rising tension in the air. Thunder's reputation in the show circuit was legendary. Multiple championships and perfect obedience scores made him as much a celebrity as his owner in certain circles. Look at this hat, Marcus continued, his voice growing louder, bouncing off the ancient walls of the tea house. Is it really traditional, or did they buy it at some tourist shop? He reached out as if to touch the woven headpiece, stopping just short as a security guard's voice rang out from the side. The hat, crafted by master artisans using techniques passed down through generations, represented more than just a uniform piece. It was a symbol of the Guardian's authority and connection to ancient traditions. Sir, please respect the boundary line, the guard called firmly. This is a sacred space. Hiroshi Tanaka had served as head of security at the tea house for over 2 decades, and he'd seen his share of disrespectful tourists, but something about this situation felt different, more volatile. Marcus stepped back with an exaggerated bow, drawing laughs from some of his viewers. Sacred space? It's a tourist attraction. I paid good money to be here. He turned back to his live stream. Can you believe this? They're really committed to this act. His designer shoes scuffed against the ancient stones, leaving marks on their polished surface. Hiroshi moved closer to the scene, his uniform marking him as part of the tea house's traditional security force, a position that combined modern protection with ancient ceremony. His fingers brushed against the radio at his belt, ready to call for backup if needed. Sir, this is your first warning. Please maintain appropriate distance and respect. Or what? Marcus challenged, his voice taking on an edge. Will your statue come to life? More comments flooded his stream, some encouraging his behavior, others expressing disapproval. The influencer basked in the attention, his content-hungry grin growing wider. The live stream counter showed nearly 3 million viewers now, all watching this cultural clash unfold in real time. Thunder, the Akita, had begun to show signs of agitation, picking up on the mounting tension. Jun struggled slightly to maintain control as the powerful dog shifted its weight, its eyes fixed on Takeshi's motionless form. The dog's training was impeccable, but there was something about this situation that seemed to awaken its more primitive instincts. You know what would make great content? Marcus announced, turning to Jun. Let's see how well trained their guardian is compared to our Thunder. After all, We've got a champion show dog here, probably more disciplined than any human statue. Preparing and narrating this story took us a lot of time, so if you are enjoying it, subscribe to our channel. It means a lot to us. Now back to the story. His words carried a challenge that seemed to electrify the air itself. A ripple of concern moved through the crowd. Several visitors began backing away, sensing the situation was escalating beyond mere tourist antics. Parents pulled their children closer, and several tour guides began quietly moving their groups toward the exit. The security guard reached for his radio, but Marcus was already in full performance mode. "Watch this, everyone," he called out to his audience. "Let's see who's better trained, their guardian or our champion." He gestured to Jun, who hesitated visibly, her expression showing uncertainty. The morning light caught the worry lines creasing her forehead as she gripped Thunder's leash tighter. "Sir," Hiroshi warned again, his voice carrying the weight of authority. "That would be extremely inappropriate and potentially dangerous." His hand now rested firmly on his radio, ready to call for immediate backup. But Marcus was too invested in his performance now. His livestream numbers had doubled in the past few minutes, comments and reactions pouring in like a digital tidal wave. "Inappropriate? This whole place is just a show anyway. Let's give them some real entertainment." Takeshi remained motionless through all of this, but subtle changes had begun to appear in his stance. His shoulders squared ever so slightly, his breathing became more measured, and his eyes, while still focused ahead, carried an alertness that hadn't been there before. Decades of training had prepared him for many things, but what was about to unfold would test even his legendary composure. The morning sun now hung higher in the sky, its light catching the polished wood of the tea house gates and casting long shadows across the courtyard. The cherry blossoms continued their gentle dance in the breeze, a sharp contrast to the tension building below. No one in the growing crowd could have predicted how quickly this social media stunt was about to transform into something that would shock millions around the world. Thunder's muscles rippled beneath his gleaming coat as Marcus's plan began to unfold. The champion Akita's training medals clinked softly against his leather collar, each one representing years of rigorous show competitions and perfect obedience scores. Yet something in the air had changed, making the usually composed animal increasingly alert and tense. "Let me show you what real discipline looks like," Marcus announced to his ever-growing live stream audience now approaching 4 million viewers. Comments flooded the screen faster than ever, a digital tsunami of excitement and concern. "Our Thunder here has won more championships than this tea house has visitors. Isn't that right, boy?" Junwang's knuckles whitened around the leather leash as she sensed her dog's growing agitation. As Thunder's trainer for the past 5 years, she knew every subtle shift in his behavior. "Marcus," she warned, her voice barely above a whisper, "maybe we should step back, this doesn't feel right." But Marcus was riding the wave of viral attention, his eyes gleaming with the possibility of creating content that would explode across social media. "Come on, Jun. Think about the views. Think about the sponsors." He adjusted his designer jacket, making sure his brand partnerships were visible to the camera. "This is going to be epic." The crowd had grown even larger, forming a tense semicircle around the unfolding scene. Phones recorded from every angle, their screens reflecting the morning sun like hundreds of watching eyes. Some visitors had begun speaking in urgent whispers to the security staff, while others seemed frozen in place, unable to look away from what was about to happen. Hiroshi Tanaka, the head of security, spoke into his radio in rapid Japanese, calling for immediate backup. His years of experience told him this situation was balancing on a knife's edge. "Sir," he addressed Marcus again, his tone carrying a final warning, "this is your last chance to step away. What you're planning could have serious consequences." "Consequences?" Marcus laughed, playing to his audience. "The only consequence will be my follower count hitting 5 million after this." He turned to the livestream chat, reading comments aloud. "Show them what Thunder can do. This is going to be insane. See, the people want a show." Yuki Matsuda, the young apprentice, had managed to work her way closer to the front of the crowd. Her hands trembled as she continued recording, but her voice rang out clearly. "Please, this is disrespectful to our traditions." "The guardian position is sacred." Marcus spun toward her, his camera following. Sacred. Everything's content these days, sweetheart. Nothing's sacred anymore. His words drew shocked gasps from the Japanese visitors in the crowd, but he was too focused on his performance to notice. Meanwhile, Takeshi maintained his unwavering stance, though subtle changes had become visible to those who knew what to look for. His breathing had shifted to a deeper pattern, an ancient technique passed down through generations of guardians. His feet had adjusted microscopically, finding perfect balance on the stone beneath them. "Time for the main event," Marcus declared, moving closer to Jun and Thunder. "Let's see how your ancient training stands up against modern championship discipline." He reached for Thunder's leash, but Jun pulled back instinctively. "This isn't right," Jun protested louder now. "Thunder isn't a prop for your content." But her words were drowned out by the excited murmurs of the crowd and Marcus's theatrical commentary to his livestream. "Ladies and gentlemen, what you're about to witness will prove once and for all that all this traditional mumbo-jumbo is just for show." Marcus's voice echoed off the ancient walls of the tea house. "Our champion here is going to give Mr. Statue a little challenge, and I bet he'll break character faster than you can say like and subscribe." Thunder's ears had flattened against his head, his powerful body coiled with tension. The dog's instincts, honed through generations of breeding, were picking up on something that the humans around him seemed to miss, a subtle shift in the energy emanating from the motionless guardian. The morning air grew thick with anticipation as Marcus reached again for Thunder's leash. This time, Jun's grip loosened, worn down by the relentless pressure of Marcus's determination and the weight of millions of watching eyes. The leather strap slid through her fingers like water, and in that moment she saw in Thunder's eyes something she'd never witnessed before, a primal focus that transcended years of careful training. Takeshi's eyes, still fixed ahead, reflected the rising sun like pools of ancient wisdom. In his peripheral vision, he registered every movement, every shift in the complex tableau unfolding before him. His decades of training had prepared him for many challenges, but what was about to happen would test the very foundations of his discipline. The tension in the courtyard had reached a breaking point. The cherry blossoms continued their gentle dance overhead, oblivious to the drama below, as millions around the world watched through their screens, waiting to see what would happen when modern arrogance collided with ancient tradition. "Thunder, show them what a real champion can do," Marcus commanded, his voice cutting through the tense morning air. The Akita's powerful muscles tensed beneath his gleaming coat as Marcus gripped the leash, his knuckles white with anticipation. The livestream counter ticked past 5 million viewers, each one waiting to witness what would happen next. Jun's face had drained of color as she watched her precious show dog transform before her eyes. Thunder's usual show ring composure had vanished, replaced by something more primitive and powerful. "Marcus, please," she pleaded one last time. "This isn't what we trained for. Thunder's not himself right now." But Marcus was too absorbed in his performance to heed her warning. "Ladies and gentlemen of the internet," he announced, playing to his global audience, "prepare yourselves for the moment of truth. Our champion is about to show this guardian what real discipline looks like." His designer shoes scraped against the ancient stones as he positioned himself for the perfect camera angle. Hiroshi Tanaka's backup security team had arrived, positioning themselves discreetly around the courtyard's perimeter. They moved with practiced efficiency, their black uniforms blending with the shadows cast by the morning sun. Through their earpieces came urgent instructions in hushed Japanese, preparing for multiple scenarios. The crowd had grown to unprecedented numbers, their collective breath held in anticipation. Phones recorded from every angle, their screens creating a constellation of digital eyes around the courtyard. Among them, Yuki Matsuda continued her documentation, her hands steady now as she captured what she knew would become a pivotal moment in the tea house's long history. "Watch this," Marcus smirked, adjusting his grip on Thunder's leash. "Thunder, attention!" The command, usually met with perfect obedience in show rings across Asia, seemed to bounce off the dog's primed instincts. Thunder's ears remained flat against his head, his eyes locked on Takeshi with an intensity that made several onlookers step back. The morning sun had climbed higher, casting dramatic shadows across the tea house grounds. Cherry blossoms continued their gentle descent, creating an eerily beautiful backdrop to the mounting tension. The contrast between nature's serenity and the human drama unfolding below couldn't have been more stark. Takeshi remained motionless, but subtle changes in his stance spoke volumes to those who understood the ancient arts. His breathing had shifted to an even deeper pattern, drawing upon techniques passed down through centuries of guardian training. His feet had found perfect alignment with the earth beneath them, rooted like an ancient oak. "Thunder forward," Marcus commanded, his voice carrying a note of theatrical excitement. The Akita's powerful frame coiled like a spring, muscles rippling beneath his red coat. The metals on his collar jingled softly, a discordant melody against the sacred silence of the tea house grounds. Jun took several steps backward, her face a mask of horror as she watched her beloved show dog transform into something she barely recognized. "This isn't right," she whispered, but her words were lost in the growing murmur of the crowd. The security team had begun quietly evacuating the closest bystanders, their movements careful and measured to avoid adding to the tension. Hiroshi's hand rested on his radio, ready to call for additional support if needed. Years of experience told him they were moments away from a situation that could spiral beyond control. Thunder's chest rumbled with a low growl, the sound seeming to vibrate through the ancient stones beneath their feet. Several people in the crowd gasped, their phones trembling as they continued to record. The livestream chat exploded with comments, a digital chorus of excitement and concern. "That's it, boy," Marcus encouraged, completely missing the warning signs that had Jun and the security team on high alert. "Show everyone what a real champion can do. Thunder, challenge." The command, one they'd practiced countless times in controlled environments, took on a different meaning in this charged atmosphere. Takeshi's eyes, still fixed ahead, reflected the morning light like pools of ancient wisdom. In his peripheral vision, he registered every subtle shift in Thunder's stance, every twitch of muscle that telegraphed the dog's intentions. His decades of training had prepared him for many things, but what was about to unfold would test even his legendary composure. The tension in the courtyard had reached its peak. Time seemed to slow down as Thunder's powerful haunches tensed, preparing for action. The cherry blossoms continued their lazy dance overhead, creating an almost surreal contrast to the drama unfolding below. Millions watched through their screens, holding their breath for what would happen next. Marcus, still playing to his audience, raised his phone higher to capture the perfect angle. "This is it, everyone. The moment you've all been waiting for. Let's see how well ancient tradition holds up against modern excellence." His words hung in the air like smoke, a final challenge to centuries of sacred tradition. "Thunder, attack!" Marcus's command shattered the morning silence like a thunderclap. The champion Akita's response was immediate and explosive. Years of show training transformed into raw power as he launched forward, powerful muscles propelling him through the air. The crowd erupted in screams, phones shaking as they captured the heart-stopping moment. Jun's horrified cry pierced the chaos. "No, Thunder, stop!" But her voice was lost in the mayhem as her champion show dog, winner of countless obedience awards, became an unstoppable force of nature. The leather leash whipped through the air as Thunder broke free from Marcus's grip, sending the influencer stumbling backward. Time seemed to slow down as Thunder's powerful form soared toward Takeshi. The guardian stood motionless, still as the ancient stones beneath his feet. But in that fraction of a second, something changed in his stance. A shift so subtle that only the most trained eye could detect it. Just as Thunder's teeth were about to make contact, Takeshi's hand moved with lightning speed. His fingers curved into a precise position, and from his lips came a sound that would soon be replayed millions of times across social media. A whistle so sharp and precise it seemed to cut through the very fabric of time. The effect was instantaneous and extraordinary. Thunder's powerful leap froze midair, his muscles locking in confusion. The dog's momentum carried him forward, but his aggressive intent vanished like morning mist. He landed awkwardly, skidding across the ancient stones, before coming to a complete stop at Takeshi's feet. The silence that followed was deafening. Even the cherry blossoms seemed to pause their dance in the morning breeze. Thunder sat there, head tilted in confusion, looking up at Takeshi with an expression that seemed almost respectful. The mighty champion show dog, terror of the competition circuit, had been humbled by a single whistle. Marcus's livestream exploded with comments, his phone trembling in his hands as he struggled to process what had just happened. What? How did he? His voice trailed off as Takeshi finally broke his stance, turning his head slightly to look directly at the stunned influencer. A dog's spirit, Takeshi spoke, his voice calm and measured, carrying across the silent courtyard, deserves more respect than your ego. The words, though quiet, seemed to echo off every ancient stone. It was the first time many had heard the Guardian speak, and the impact was profound. Jun rushed forward to retrieve Thunder, tears streaming down her face. The dog went to her willingly, all aggression gone, replaced by what looked almost like shame. "I'm so sorry," she sobbed, clutching Thunder's collar. "This isn't like him at all." Hiroshi and his security team moved swiftly, forming a protective circle around the scene. The head of security's voice cut through the murmurs of the crowd. "Sir, you have actively endangered our guests and violated sacred grounds. The authorities have been called." Marcus, his face flushed with humiliation, tried to salvage his dignity. It was just content, just a show. How was I supposed to know he could do whatever that was? His designer jacket was dusty now, his carefully crafted image crumbling as rapidly as his social media reputation. Yuki Matsuda, still recording, called out from the crowd, "That whistle. It's an ancient technique, isn't it? Something passed down through generations of guardians?" Her question seemed to give voice to the wonder that had replaced the earlier terror. Takeshi remained silent, having returned to his post with the same grace and dignity that had marked his every movement. But the slight nod he gave in Yuki's direction confirmed her suspicion, adding another layer of mystery to the already incredible scene. The crowd's phones continued recording as local police arrived, their blue lights casting strange shadows across the tea house walls. Marcus's livestream comments had turned from excitement to ridicule, his followers turning against him as the full impact of his reckless behavior became clear. "Your actions today," Hiroshi addressed Marcus formally, "will have consequences. This is not a tourist attraction. It is a sacred space where ancient traditions live on for good reason." The security chief's words carried the weight of centuries. Thunder, now calm beside Jun, kept glancing back at Takeshi with an almost reverent expression. The dog's show metals clinked softly as he shifted, somehow seeming less important now in the face of something far older and more profound. As the morning sun climbed higher, casting long shadows across the courtyard, the impact of what had just occurred began to ripple outward. Videos were already being uploaded, shared, and discussed across social media platforms worldwide. The hashtag #TeaHouseGuardian was trending, along with #ThunderHumbled and #AncientWisdom. Marcus was led away by police, his protests about just creating content falling on deaf ears. His perfectly curated image had crumbled in the face of something authentic and ancient, a lesson in respect that would soon be viewed by millions. The aftermath of the incident spread through social media like wildfire. Marcus's livestream, which had captured everything in crystal clarity, became the source material for thousands of reaction videos, memes, and viral posts. The moment when Thunder froze mid-leap, transformed from attacking champion to confused puppy by a single whistle, was looped and analyzed across every major platform. Within hours, detailed breakdowns of the footage appeared, with experts analyzing everything from Thunder's body language to Takeshi's imperceptible shift in stance before the whistle. "Influencer's arrogance meets ancient wisdom," read the headlines of major news outlets. Within hours, clips of the incident had garnered over 50 million views. Social media experts and body language analysts dissected every moment, from Thunder's aggressive leap to Takeshi's perfectly timed whistle. Professional dog trainers began posting their own analyses, attempting to understand the ancient technique that had stopped a charging show champion in its tracks. In the local police station, Marcus sat in an interrogation room, his designer jacket now wrinkled and his carefully styled hair disheveled. The pristine image he'd cultivated for his millions of followers had crumbled in a matter of hours. "I don't understand what the big deal is," he protested to the investigating officers, his voice having lost its theatrical edge. "I was just creating content. This is what my followers want to see. Nobody was actually going to get hurt." Detective Kenji Yamamoto, no relation to Takeshi, reviewed the footage on his tablet for the third time. His expression remained stern as he observed the reckless escalation of events. "Mr. Chen, you deliberately endangered public safety, attempted to provoke a sacred guardian, and used your dog as a weapon. This isn't about content, it's about criminal behavior. Do you understand the severity of your actions?" Meanwhile, at a nearby veterinary clinic, Jun sat with Thunder as specialists examined him. The champion show dog seemed somehow different now, humbled, perhaps even enlightened. His usually proud bearing had been replaced by a quieter, more contemplative demeanor. "I've never seen anything like it," June explained to the veterinarian, her hands gently stroking Thunder's fur. "It's like that whistle spoke to something deep inside him, something beyond training. All his championships, all our years of work, none of it mattered in that moment." Dr. Sakura Tanaka nodded thoughtfully as she checked Thunder's responses, noting how the dog's behavior had fundamentally shifted. "There are techniques, ancient ones, that work with a dog's primal instincts rather than against them. What the Guardian did wasn't just skill. It was a demonstration of harmony between human and animal that goes back centuries. Your Thunder encountered something older and deeper than modern training methods today." Back at the tea house, life had begun returning to normal, though the morning's events had left an indelible mark. Security had been heightened, with additional guards posted discreetly around the perimeter. Tourists spoke in hushed, respectful tones, and no one dared approach too close to where Takeshi stood, still maintaining his vigilant watch. The atmosphere had transformed from casual tourism to something approaching reverence. Yuki Matsuda had become an unexpected authority on the incident, her clear footage and cultural understanding making her a sought-after interviewee for news outlets. Her perspective offered a bridge between traditional wisdom and modern understanding. "What we witnessed wasn't just about stopping an attack," she explained to a reporter from a major international network. "It was about the triumph of respect and tradition over modern arrogance. The Guardian's whistle wasn't just a command, it was centuries of wisdom distilled into a single moment." The tea house administration called an emergency meeting to discuss the incident. In the ancient meeting room, where decisions had been made for centuries, Director Matsuo Sato addressed his staff with grave concern. "For centuries, we have maintained a balance between preserving our traditions and accommodating modern tourism. Today's events remind us why these traditions must be protected. What happened here will have repercussions far beyond our walls." Social media platforms were ablaze with discussion. Behavioral experts analyzed Thunder's reaction, dog trainers debated the whistle technique, and cultural scholars wrote long threads about the significance of tea house guardians. The hashtag #Tea House Guardian had evolved into a symbol of quiet strength against disrespect. Videos of the incident were being used in cultural sensitivity training sessions and shared as examples of why ancient traditions deserved respect. Marcus's sponsor brands began issuing public statements distancing themselves from his actions. "We do not condone the disrespect of cultural traditions or the endangerment of public safety," posted one major athletic wear company. Others quickly followed suit, causing Marcus's carefully built influencer empire to crumble in real time. His follower count dropped by millions as the public turned against his brand of sensationalist content creation. Jun's professional reputation also faced intense scrutiny within the show dog community. The Asian Show Dog Association called an emergency meeting to discuss the implications of the incident. "This forces us to examine the relationship between showmanship and responsible animal handling," stated their official release. "When a champion show dog can be manipulated into becoming a weapon for social media fame, we must question our priorities as a community." As evening approached, Hiroshi conducted a final security sweep of the tea house grounds. He paused near Takeshi's post, bowing slightly to his colleague. "The director wishes to speak with you after your shift," he mentioned quietly. Your actions today have sparked something bigger than anyone expected. News outlets from around the world are requesting interviews, though we know you won't accept them. The setting sun cast long shadows across the tea house grounds, where cherry blossoms still fell gently, unchanged by the day's drama. Tourists continued to visit, but there was a notable difference in their behavior. More bowing, more whispered conversations, and a tangible atmosphere of respect that hadn't been there before. Many visitors now stopped to read the historical plaques that explained the tea house's traditions, something few had bothered with before. Online, the video of the incident had spawned countless discussions about the clash between traditional values and modern social media culture. Comments flooded in from around the world. This is what happens when you think likes are more important than respect. That whistle was centuries of wisdom in a single sound. Maybe we all need to slow down and learn from traditions instead of mocking them. Watch how the dog's aggression instantly transforms into respect. There's a lesson there. Cultural experts began publishing analyses of the incident, drawing parallels between the Guardian's composure and ancient philosophical principles. What we witnessed, wrote Dr. Haruki Tanaka of Tokyo University, was not just a man stopping a dog, but the embodiment of principles that have guided Japanese culture for centuries. The power of calm in the face of chaos, the strength found in stillness, and the triumph of wisdom over force. Local schools requested permission to use the incident as a teaching moment about cultural respect and the importance of traditional knowledge. The tea house administration, after careful consideration, agreed to develop an educational program that would help young people understand the deeper significance of their cultural heritage. As night fell over Kyoto, Takeshi finally completed his shift, maintaining perfect composure until the very end. The day's events had demonstrated something profound about the enduring power of tradition in a world obsessed with viral moments and instant fame. His whistle had done more than stop a dog. It had reminded millions that some things transcend the temporary glory of social media status. The following morning dawned quiet over Kyoto, but the digital world was still reverberating with the impact of yesterday's events. The original video had surpassed 100 million views, spawning countless reaction videos, analytical breakdowns, and cultural commentaries. Major news networks across Asia had picked up the story, framing it as a symbolic clash between tradition and modern social media culture. In a prestigious Tokyo law firm, Marcus faced the harsh reality of his actions. His legal team, headed by veteran attorney Hideo Nakamura, delivered a sobering assessment. Mr. Chen, you're facing multiple charges: endangering public safety, inciting violence on sacred grounds, and animal endangerment. The evidence is overwhelming, and public sentiment is strongly against you. Marcus slumped in his leather chair, his designer clothes now seeming like a costume rather than status symbols. His phone buzzed constantly with notifications: more lost sponsors, canceled contracts, and plummeting follower counts. Can't we just say it was a prank gone wrong? Offer some apology video? His voice had lost its confident edge, replaced by desperate pleading. Meanwhile, at the prestigious Asian Kennel Association headquarters in Singapore, Jun faced a disciplinary committee. The panel of senior judges and trainers sat stern-faced as they reviewed the footage again. Ms. Wong, the committee chair began, explain to us how a champion show dog under your handling was used in such a dangerous and irresponsible manner. Thunder sat quietly beside her, his demeanor noticeably changed since the incident. The once proud champion now displayed a peculiar calm, as if his encounter with ancient wisdom had fundamentally altered his spirit. Several committee members noted this transformation with great interest. Back at the tea house, a different kind of meeting was taking place. Director Matsuo Sato sat with Takeshi in the ancient ceremony room, steam rising from traditional tea bowls between them. Your actions have sparked something unexpected, the director spoke softly. People are rediscovering the value of our traditions. Major universities are requesting to study our guardian training methods. Takeshi remained characteristically humble, his response measured and thoughtful. The whistle is but one note in an ancient symphony of knowledge. Perhaps its time has come to be heard again. His words, though few, carried the weight of centuries. Across social media platforms, the incident had sparked a broader cultural conversation. Anthropologists and cultural experts began publishing in-depth analyses. Dr. Sarah Chen, no relation to Marcus, from Harvard University, wrote, "What we witnessed was more than a viral moment. It was the collision of superficial modern fame with deeply rooted traditional wisdom. The whistle technique, previously known only to a select few, represents centuries of refined understanding of both human and animal nature." Yuki Matsuda's thoughtful documentation of the event had earned her unexpected recognition. Leading cultural preservation societies invited her to speak about the importance of maintaining traditional knowledge in the modern age. Her social media following grew as she shared insights about the deeper meanings behind Japanese customs and ceremonies. The tea house itself had become a symbol of resistance against disrespectful social media behavior. Visitor numbers swelled, but the atmosphere had transformed. People moved quietly, spoke softly, and showed genuine interest in learning about the traditions they were witnessing. The gift shop could barely keep up with demands for books about tea house history and guardian traditions. In a small veterinary clinic in Kyoto, Dr. Sakura continued her observation of Thunder. "The change in him is remarkable," she noted in her research journal. "His aggressive responses have completely disappeared, replaced by a calm alertness that I've never seen in a show dog. The ancient whistle technique seems to have awakened something primal yet peaceful in his nature." The incident had even reached academic circles. The University of Tokyo's Department of Cultural Studies announced a new research initiative, Preserving Traditional Knowledge in the Digital Age, Lessons from the Tea House Guardian. The project would document and study various traditional practices that had survived into the modern era. Legal experts began examining the case's implications for cultural heritage protection laws. This incident highlights the need for stronger legal frameworks to protect traditional cultural practices, argued prominent lawyer Kenji Tanaka. Social media fame cannot be allowed to endanger centuries-old customs. As evening approached the tea house once again, Hiroshi observed a group of young martial arts students visiting from a local dojo. They bowed deeply to Takeshi, understanding now that the guardian's role represented something far more profound than just maintaining order. Their teacher spoke quietly. "Remember this place. Here, ancient wisdom proved stronger than modern arrogance." The sun set over Kyoto, casting long shadows across the tea house grounds. Cherry blossoms continued their eternal dance in the evening breeze, just as they had for centuries before social media existed. Takeshi maintained his post, embodying the timeless principles that had transformed a moment of potential tragedy into a powerful lesson for the modern world. 1 week after the incident, the Kyoto District Court convened for Marcus Chen's preliminary hearing. The courtroom, a blend of modern justice and traditional Japanese architecture, was packed with journalists and observers. Marcus, stripped of his designer clothes and social media presence, wore a simple dark suit that seemed to swallow his diminished presence. His once confident swagger had been replaced by a nervous shuffle as he entered under the watchful eyes of the court officers. Chief Judge Akiko Yamamoto presided over the proceedings with measured authority. "The charges before us today are serious," she began, her voice carrying through the hushed courtroom. "We have evidence of premeditated intent to create disruption at a cultural heritage site, endangerment of public safety, and misuse of a trained animal for the purpose of creating social media content. These actions strike at the heart of our cultural preservation laws." Marcus's legal team, led by Hideo Nakamura, presented their defense strategy. The veteran lawyer stood before the court, his silver hair and impeccable suit lending gravity to his words. "Your Honor, my client acknowledges his poor judgment, but maintains that his intent was entertainment, not malice. We request the court's leniency considering his willingness to make full restitution and his commitment to cultural sensitivity training. Mr. Chen has already enrolled in extensive courses on Japanese cultural heritage and traditional practices." The prosecution, represented by veteran lawyer Masashi Tanaka, stood firm, his evidence files spread before him like a roadmap of Marcus's transgressions. The defendant's actions represent more than a simple lapse in judgment. They demonstrate a calculated attempt to exploit and demean cultural heritage for personal gain. The evidence shows clear planning and escalation, with multiple opportunities to cease his actions. His livestream comments reveal premeditation and a deliberate intent to provoke conflict for entertainment. In another part of Kyoto, Jun Wang faced her own reckoning at the Asian Kennel Association's disciplinary hearing. The grand meeting room, with its polished wooden panels and traditional scrolls, felt more like a temple of judgment than a conference space. The panel of 5 distinguished judges reviewed Thunder's competition history, training records, and the incident footage in meticulous detail. Ms. Wang, the head judge addressed her, his voice carrying decades of experience in the show dog community. Your negligence allowed a champion show dog to be weaponized for social media entertainment. This violates the core principles of responsible animal handling. Thunder's achievements, including 6 international championships and 12 Best in Show awards, make this breach of trust even more significant. Thunder, still displaying his transformed demeanor, sat calmly beside her. The change in his bearing was so profound that several panel members requested permission to approach and observe him more closely. Multiple behavioral experts had documented the lasting changes in his temperament since encountering Takeshi's whistle, noting how his once proud show stance had been replaced by a more grounded, peaceful presence. Dr. Sakura's preliminary research paper on the phenomenon had already attracted international attention in veterinary circles. Her detailed observations of Thunder's behavioral changes had sparked intense interest in traditional training methods. What we're witnessing, her report stated, is not just a temporary modification of learned behaviors, but a fundamental shift in the animal's relationship with authority and discipline. Back at the tea house, life had found a new rhythm. Visitor numbers remained high, but the atmosphere had fundamentally changed. Where once tourists jostled for selfies and spoke loudly, now they moved with mindful steps and hushed voices. Tour guides now included detailed explanations of guardian traditions in their presentations, often pausing to let visitors absorb the significance of centuries-old practices. Photography was still allowed, but a respectful distance was strictly maintained, marked by elegant rope barriers and signs in multiple languages explaining the sacred nature of the space. The signs themselves had been carefully designed to blend with the traditional architecture while conveying the importance of cultural respect. Director Matsuo Sato had implemented new educational programs in response to the widespread interest in tea house traditions. In his office, surrounded by ancient scrolls and modern technology, he worked tirelessly to bridge the gap between preservation and education. We must balance preservation with education, he explained to his staff during an emergency meeting. This incident has created an opportunity to share our cultural heritage in a meaningful way, but we must ensure that education doesn't compromise the very traditions we're trying to protect. Continuation of Part 8. Takeshi continued his duties with unchanging dedication, though his role had taken on an almost legendary status. Young martial arts students would come to observe his technique, maintaining a respectful distance as they studied his posture and presence. Cultural researchers documented the subtle details of his practiced movements, noting how each gesture, no matter how small, carried centuries of refined purpose. His whistle technique had become the subject of numerous academic studies, with experts attempting to understand the ancient principles behind its effectiveness. The University of Tokyo's Department of Traditional Arts had launched a comprehensive research project to document and analyze the various techniques used by tea house guardians throughout history. Social media platforms had begun implementing new policies regarding content creation at cultural sites. The largest platforms convened a special committee to draft guidelines for respectful content creation. The tea house incident has forced us to reconsider our approach to cultural sensitivity, announced one major platform's CEO during a press conference. We're introducing new guidelines for content involving traditional practices and sacred spaces, with clear consequences for violations. The incident had sparked a broader movement in Japan and beyond. Cultural preservation societies reported unprecedented increases in interest and funding. Traditional art schools saw their enrollment numbers double as people sought to connect with ancient wisdom in an increasingly digital world. The waiting list for tea ceremony classes at the Shimizu Tea House had grown so long that new instructors were being trained to meet the demand. In the veterinary world, Dr. Sakura's continued observation of thunder had yielded fascinating insights. Her research team had expanded, now including experts in animal behavior, traditional training methods, and cultural practices. The changes we're seeing suggest that ancient techniques might offer alternatives to modern behavioral training, she reported to a packed conference hall. Thunder's transformation indicates that some traditional methods tap into deeper aspects of animal psychology than our current approaches. International media continued to analyze the story's implications. Major news networks sent cultural correspondents to Kyoto, each seeking to understand the deeper significance of the incident. This represents more than a viral moment, wrote the Cultural Heritage Review in a feature-length article. It demonstrates the enduring relevance of traditional wisdom in our modern age. The Guardian's whistle did more than stop a dog. It challenged our assumptions about progress and tradition. Jun Wang, facing the consequences of her role in the incident, had begun working with animal behavior experts to document Thunder's transformation. Her testimony before various professional bodies became increasingly focused on the profound changes she observed in her once proud champion. His encounter with ancient wisdom changed him profoundly, she noted in her testimony. It's as if he found a peace that years of show training never provided. This experience has forced me to question everything I thought I knew about animal training and human-animal relationships. 1 month after the incident, the impact continued to ripple through both traditional and digital spheres. The Kyoto District Court reached its verdict on Marcus Chen's case, the decision sending shockwaves through the influencer community worldwide. The grand courtroom, with its blend of modern justice system and traditional Japanese architecture, fell completely silent as Judge Yamamoto prepared to deliver her ruling. This court finds the defendant guilty of all charges, she declared, her words echoing through the hushed chamber. The sentence includes a substantial fine of 10 million yen, mandatory cultural sensitivity training, and a 2-year ban from all Japanese cultural heritage sites. Furthermore, the defendant is required to produce and distribute educational content about respectful behavior at cultural sites. She paused, then added, "Let this serve as a clear message that our cultural heritage is not a playground for social media entertainment." Marcus, his designer clothes replaced by a modest suit that seemed to swallow his diminished presence, accepted the verdict with bowed head. His social media empire had crumbled completely. His follower count plummeted from millions to mere thousands, and his reputation appeared beyond repair. Major brands not only terminated his contracts, but began using his case as a prime example in their internal training about cultural sensitivity and responsible content creation. The verdict sparked immediate reactions across social media platforms. Hashtags like "Show Cultural Respect" and "Show Tea House Justice" trended worldwide. Marketing experts analyzed the case as the fastest and most complete influencer downfall in social media history, with Marcus losing an estimated $5 million in canceled contracts and future opportunities. At the Asian Kennel Association's Grand Hall, Jun Wang's case concluded with a groundbreaking decision. Instead of the expected lifetime ban, the committee took an unprecedented approach. Ms. Wang will work with Dr. Sakura's research team, announced the head judge, his voice carrying authority through the oak-paneled chamber. Together, they will study the integration of traditional techniques with modern dog training methods. Thunder will serve as the primary subject of this research. The decision represented a shift in the association's approach to discipline, focusing on rehabilitation and learning rather than punishment. The committee's detailed report highlighted how the incident had exposed gaps in their ethical guidelines regarding the use of show dogs in social media content. Thunder's transformation had become legendary in veterinary circles. Dr. Sakura's ongoing research, conducted in a state-of-the-art facility funded by several major universities, revealed fascinating patterns. The ancient whistle technique appears to access neural pathways we didn't know existed, she explained at an international conference in Tokyo. Thunder's brain scans show significant changes in areas associated with aggression and emotional regulation. It's as if the whistle activated an ancient reset button in his canine psychology. Her team's preliminary findings suggested that traditional techniques might hold solutions to behavioral problems that modern methods struggled to address. Weekly observation sessions drew veterinary experts from around the world, all eager to witness Thunder's sustained transformation firsthand. The Shimizu Tea House evolved into something far beyond a tourist destination. Director Sato implemented a comprehensive educational program, balancing tradition with modern understanding. "We've created a bridge between ancient wisdom and contemporary society," he explained to a group of visiting educators from Harvard University. "Our guardian traditions are not relics. They're living proof that old wisdom can solve modern problems." The tea house's new Cultural Preservation Center, housed in a carefully restored ancient building, offered programs ranging from basic cultural awareness to intensive study of traditional practices. International universities began establishing exchange programs, sending students to learn about the integration of ancient wisdom with contemporary life. Takeshi's role expanded beyond his daily duties, though he maintained his post with unchanging dedication. He now supervised the training of new guardians, passing on not just the physical techniques but the deeper philosophical principles behind them. The whistle technique, however, remained a closely guarded secret, taught only to those who demonstrated true understanding of its responsibility. Yuki Matsuda's documentation of the incident led to an unexpected career shift. She now headed a cultural preservation project at Tokyo University, focusing on the intersection of traditional practices and modern society. Her viral video had evolved into a comprehensive study of how ancient wisdom could address contemporary challenges. "What happened that day wasn't just about stopping a dog," she explained in her popular lecture series, which consistently drew overflow crowds. "It was about the power of tradition to command respect in an age of instant gratification." The Guardian's whistle carried centuries of wisdom in a single note, and its effect continues to resonate through our modern world. The incident sparked a global conversation about social media behavior at cultural sites. Major platforms implemented the Kyoto Protocol, a stringent set of guidelines for content creation at heritage locations. Violations could result in immediate account suspension and mandatory cultural sensitivity training. The protocol became a model for digital responsibility, adopted by platforms worldwide. International tourism patterns showed remarkable changes. Visitors to Japanese cultural sites demonstrated notably more respectful behavior. Tour companies reported a 300% increase in demand for in-depth cultural experiences rather than quick photo opportunities. The phrase "Remember the Tea House Guardian" became a standard reminder in tourist orientations, symbolizing the importance of cultural respect. The legal world felt the impact profoundly. New legislation was proposed in several countries to protect cultural heritage sites from disruptive social media behavior. The Tea House laws, as they came to be known, established clear penalties for using sacred spaces as entertainment venues without proper respect and permission. Legal scholars began studying the case as a precedent for cultural heritage protection in the digital age. Dr. Sakura's research expanded into a global study of traditional animal handling techniques. "What we witnessed with Thunder might be just the tip of the iceberg," she wrote in a peer-reviewed paper that quickly became the most cited work in her field. Ancient cultures may have understood aspects of animal behavior that modern science is only beginning to rediscover. Thunder himself became a living testament to the power of traditional wisdom. His transformation from aggressive show dog to calm, centered companion inspired a new approach to animal training. Veterinary schools worldwide began incorporating modules on traditional handling techniques, recognizing that ancient methods might complement modern practices. As the seasons changed in Kyoto, the cherry blossoms gave way to summer leaves, but the lessons of that spring morning remained deeply embedded in global consciousness. The incident had demonstrated that in an age of viral videos and instant fame, centuries-old wisdom could still command respect and teach valuable lessons about the true meaning of strength and dignity. 6 months after the incident, the Shimizu Tea House hosted a special ceremony marking a subtle but significant change in its ancient traditions. Director Sato, dressed in formal ceremonial robes, addressed an assembled group of international dignitaries and cultural preservation experts. "Today, "We acknowledge that tradition is not static, but alive," he announced, his voice carrying across the historic courtyard. The Tea House Guardian incident has taught us that ancient wisdom must not only be preserved, but also shared meaningfully with the modern world. Therefore, we are establishing the Guardian Wisdom Institute. The institute, housed in a beautifully restored building adjacent to the tea house, would serve as a center for studying and teaching traditional practices. Its first initiative focused on documenting the philosophical principles behind the Guardian traditions, though certain sacred techniques, including the famous whistle, would remain protected. Meanwhile, Marcus Chen's mandatory cultural education videos had taken an unexpected turn. What began as a court-ordered punishment evolved into a genuine journey of transformation. His latest video, titled "From Arrogance to Understanding," had garnered millions of views for its honest exploration of cultural respect. "I thought traditions were just for show," Marcus reflected in the video, sitting in a simple room wearing traditional Japanese clothing. "But that whistle, that single moment, showed me that some knowledge runs deeper than we can imagine. My greatest mistake wasn't just disrespecting the Guardian, it was assuming that anything old must be obsolete." Thunder's case continued to revolutionize veterinary science. Dr. Sakura's research team had expanded to include experts from 20 countries, all studying the lasting effects of traditional techniques on animal behavior. Thunder himself had become a regular visitor to veterinary schools, demonstrating a calm presence that seemed almost enlightened. "The changes we're observing aren't just behavioral," Dr. Sakura explained at an international symposium. "Brain imaging shows sustained alterations in neural pathways associated with aggression and emotional regulation. The whistle technique appears to have activated ancient calming mechanisms that modern training methods rarely access." Jun Wang, now working closely with Dr. Sakura, had developed a new training methodology combining traditional wisdom with modern understanding. "Thunder taught us that true discipline isn't about control," she explained during a demonstration. "It's about awakening an innate harmony that exists between humans and animals." The impact on social media culture continued to evolve. Major platforms had implemented sophisticated AI systems to detect and flag potentially disrespectful content at cultural sites. Content creators who demonstrated genuine cultural appreciation received special Heritage Respecter badges, which became highly coveted in the influencer community. Yuki Matsuda's cultural preservation project at Tokyo University had expanded into a global network. "We're creating bridges between ancient wisdom and modern challenges," she explained to a visiting delegation. "The Guardian incident showed us that traditional knowledge isn't outdated. We just needed to understand its relevance." Tourism at cultural sites worldwide had transformed. Visitors now participated in mandatory orientation sessions before accessing sacred spaces. The Shimizu Tea House's visitor protocol became a model for heritage sites globally, balancing accessibility with respect for traditions. Takeshi maintained his post with unchanged dedication, though his presence now carried even greater significance. Young guardians in training studied not just his techniques, but his unwavering composure. His whistle had become legendary, but it was his daily demonstration of dignified service that truly inspired. Legal frameworks continued to evolve. The tea house laws had been adopted by 12 countries, establishing clear guidelines for behavior at cultural sites. Social media platforms worked closely with cultural preservation experts to develop content policies that respected traditional practices while allowing responsible documentation. The incident's impact reached unexpected places. Business schools added cultural sensitivity modules to their marketing programs. Technology companies consulted with traditional practitioners when developing AI ethics guidelines. Even fashion designers began incorporating themes of cultural respect into their collections. As the year drew to a close, the Shimizu Tea House prepared for its annual reflection ceremony. Cherry blossoms would soon return, marking a full cycle since the incident that had changed so much. Director Sato stood with Takeshi in the quiet evening, watching the sun set over the ancient grounds. "One whistle," the director mused, "taught the world that true power lies not in disruption, but in harmony. This is the lesson we must carry forward. Takeshi nodded silently, his posture perfect as always, embodying the timeless wisdom that had transformed a moment of chaos into a catalyst for global change. 1 year after the incident, the Shimizu Tea House had become more than a cultural landmark. It was now a global symbol of traditional wisdom's relevance in the modern world. The newly established Guardian Wisdom Institute had begun its first full academic year, welcoming students from 37 countries who sought to understand the deeper principles behind ancient practices. On this particular morning, Director Sato led a special tour for international media representatives. The courtyard where the famous incident occurred had been subtly modified, with traditional markers indicating the sacred space, while educational plaques explained the significance of the Guardian's role in multiple languages. What happened here 1 year ago, Director Sato explained to the assembled journalists, continues to reshape our understanding of tradition's place in modern society. Every day, we receive requests from institutions worldwide seeking to learn from our methods. The journalists scribbled notes furiously, their cameras remaining respectfully lowered, until designated photo opportunities. Marcus Chen's transformation had become a case study in redemption. His cultural education series, which began as a court mandate, had evolved into a widely acclaimed documentary series titled Rediscovering Respect. The latest episode, focusing on the philosophical principles behind Guardian training, had received unexpected praise from cultural scholars. Looking back, Marcus reflected in a rare interview conducted at the tea house, my entire concept of success was backwards. I chased viral moments while missing the profound impact of sustained tradition. That whistle didn't just stop thunder, it stopped my headlong rush into meaningless content creation. Thunder's case continued to revolutionize animal behavior studies. Dr. Sakura's research team had published groundbreaking papers in leading scientific journals, documenting the long-term effects of traditional techniques on canine psychology. The dog himself had become something of a celebrity in academic circles, though his demeanor remained remarkably serene. What we're discovering, Dr. Sakura explained during a prestigious lecture series, challenges our modern assumptions about behavioral modification. The ancient whistle technique appears to work with natural canine instincts rather than attempting to override them. This represents a fundamental shift in our approach to animal training. Jun Wang had established a new training center that combined traditional wisdom with contemporary methods. The incident forced us to question our entire approach to animal handling, she explained to a group of visiting veterinarians. We're now seeing that the oldest techniques often offer the most sophisticated understanding of animal psychology. The impact on social media culture had matured into systematic change. Major platforms had developed comprehensive guidelines for content creation at cultural sites, with artificial intelligence systems trained to recognize and flag potentially disrespectful behavior. The Heritage Respecter certification program had become a prestigious qualification for digital content creators. Yuki Matsuda's work at Tokyo University had expanded into an international research network. We're documenting traditional practices not as historical curiosities, but as living solutions to contemporary challenges, she explained during a TED Talk that quickly went viral. The Guardian incident showed us that ancient wisdom isn't obsolete, it's often ahead of its time. Tourism at cultural sites worldwide had undergone a fundamental transformation. The Shimizu Protocol for visitor conduct had been adopted by heritage sites across Asia and Europe. Visitors now participated in brief orientation sessions that combined practical guidelines with cultural education. Takeshi's role had evolved while remaining fundamentally unchanged. He maintained his post with the same unwavering dedication, but his presence now carried additional significance. Documentary filmmakers and researchers studied his movements, trying to understand how such stillness could convey such power. The legal framework for cultural site protection had strengthened globally. The tea house laws had been refined and adopted by numerous countries, establishing clear guidelines for behavior at heritage sites, while balancing preservation with accessibility. Legal scholars studied the case as a turning point in cultural heritage protection. International business practices showed surprising changes. Major corporations now included cultural sensitivity training in their executive programs, often citing the tea house incident as a catalyst for change. Silicon Valley companies consulted with traditional practitioners when developing ethical guidelines for artificial intelligence and social media algorithms. As cherry blossoms began to bloom again, marking another cycle of renewal, Director Sato hosted a private ceremony commemorating the incident's anniversary. Gathered in the ancient ceremony room were key figures from the event: Takeshi, Dr. Sakura, Junwang with Thunder, and even Marcus Chen, now humbled and transformed. The ceremony, conducted in traditional silence, concluded with Director Sato's quiet reflection. 1 year ago, a moment of chaos revealed the enduring power of tradition. Today, we continue to learn that true progress often means understanding what ancient wisdom has always known. The cherry blossoms bloomed once again over the Shimizu Tea House, their delicate petals dancing in the spring breeze just as they had on that fateful morning a year ago. The Guardian Wisdom Institute was preparing for its first graduation ceremony, a historic event that would send its inaugural class of students out into the world as ambassadors of traditional wisdom. Director Sato stood in his office reviewing the final preparations for the ceremony. The wall behind his desk displayed an artistic rendering of the famous incident, a delicate ink painting showing the moment when tradition triumphed over arrogance. Beside it hung Thunder's championship medals donated by Junwang, as a reminder of how profound change could come from unexpected moments. Today marks more than just a graduation, he explained to assembled journalists from major international networks. It represents the beginning of a new dialogue between ancient wisdom and modern society. The reporters, notably more respectful than those of the previous year, took notes with careful attention, their cameras remaining lowered until given permission to photograph. In the courtyard, Takeshi maintained his post as always, but subtle changes marked the space around him. Traditional rope barriers, elegant and unobtrusive, defined the sacred space. Educational plaques in multiple languages explained the Guardian tradition to visitors, who now approached with notable reverence. Dr. Sakura's research had expanded into new territories. Her team's latest findings, published in prestigious scientific journals, documented lasting changes in canine behavior patterns when exposed to traditional training methods. What began with Thunder has evolved into a complete reimagining of animal behavioral science, she explained during a keynote address at an international veterinary conference. Thunder himself had become a living legend in both academic and training circles. The once aggressive show champion now served as a demonstration subject for gentle training techniques. His transformation remained so complete that other handlers brought their troubled dogs to learn from his example. Junwang had developed a comprehensive training program based on their experiences, combining ancient wisdom with modern understanding. Marcus Chen's journey of rehabilitation had taken an unexpected turn. His court-mandated cultural education videos had evolved into a respected documentary series exploring traditional practices worldwide. "I came to mock tradition and found wisdom instead," he reflected in his latest episode. "Now I understand that true influence comes from respect, not spectacle." The impact on social media culture continued to deepen. Major platforms had refined their Heritage Respecter certification program, making it a prestigious qualification for content creators. AI systems monitored cultural site content with sophisticated algorithms designed to detect and prevent disrespectful behavior before it occurred. Yuki Matsuda's research network had grown to include universities from 40 countries. Her work documenting traditional practices had revealed surprising applications for modern challenges. "Ancient wisdom often holds solutions to problems we're only beginning to recognize," she explained in a widely shared academic paper. The legal framework established by the Tea House laws had matured into a comprehensive system for cultural site protection. Heritage sites worldwide reported significant improvements in visitor behavior and appreciation for traditional practices. The Shimizu Protocol had become the global standard for respectful cultural tourism. In the business world, companies increasingly sought guidance from traditional practitioners. Silicon Valley giants consulted with tea house guardians about maintaining focus in the digital age. Leadership programs incorporated lessons from the Guardian tradition into their executive training. The ceremony room of the tea house had been prepared for a special anniversary observation. Traditional scrolls hung from the walls, their ancient characters speaking of wisdom and respect. The scent of ceremonial incense filled the air as distinguished guests arrived from around the world. Thunder, now gray around the muzzle but still dignified, sat calmly beside Junwang as they watched the preparations. His transformation had become a symbol of how profound change could emerge from a single moment of enlightenment. Veterinary students still studied videos of his famous encounter, analyzing how one whistle had altered not just his behavior, but the entire field of animal training. As the sun set on this historic day, Director Sato gathered the key figures from the incident for a private tea ceremony. Takeshi, having completed his shift, joined them with the same quiet dignity he brought to his guardian duties. Dr. Sakura arrived with her latest research findings, while Yuki Matsuda brought footage from her ongoing documentation project. 1 year ago, Director Sato began, as they knelt in the traditional ceremony room. A moment of chaos revealed the enduring power of our traditions. Today we see that power continuing to transform lives around the world. The assembled group nodded in understanding, each having witnessed the ripple effects of that remarkable morning. 18 months after the incident, the impact of that single whistle continued to resonate through society in ways no one could have predicted. The Shimizu Tea House had become a global center for the study of traditional wisdom, with the Guardian Wisdom Institute now operating satellite campuses in 12 countries. On this particular morning, Director Sato stood before an unprecedented gathering of world leaders, cultural preservationists, and technology executives. The ancient courtyard, where tradition had triumphed over arrogance, now hosted a global summit on integrating traditional wisdom with modern progress. What began with a moment of conflict, Director Sato addressed the assembled dignitaries, has evolved into a worldwide movement for cultural understanding. Our Guardian's whistle did more than stop a dog. It awakened humanity to the enduring value of ancient wisdom. The audience, which included CEOs of major tech companies and presidents of prestigious universities, listened with rapt attention. The summit's main exhibition hall displayed compelling evidence of the incident's far-reaching effects. Interactive displays showed how the tea house laws had reduced disruptive behavior at cultural sites by 87% worldwide. Statistics revealed that applications for traditional arts programs had tripled globally, while social media platforms reported a 92% decrease in disrespectful content at heritage sites. Dr. Sakura's research had expanded into groundbreaking new territories. Her team's latest study, published in Nature, demonstrated how traditional techniques could address behavioral issues that had baffled modern science. We're discovering that ancient practices often operated on principles we're only now beginning to understand, she explained to a group of visiting neuroscientists. Thunder, now an elder statesman in the world of animal behavior studies, continued to demonstrate the lasting effects of his transformation. Weekly observation sessions still drew experts from around the globe, all seeking to understand how one moment of traditional wisdom had permanently altered his neural pathways. Junwang had developed this understanding into a comprehensive training methodology that was revolutionizing animal behavior modification. Marcus Chen's redemption story had become a Harvard Business School case study in corporate responsibility and cultural sensitivity. His documentary series, Wisdom Keepers, now aired on major networks, exploring how traditional practices offered solutions to modern challenges. My greatest achievement, he reflected during a TED Talk, was learning that true influence comes from understanding, not spectacle. The impact on digital culture had matured into systematic change. Social media platforms had evolved their algorithms to promote respectful cultural content, while AI systems trained in traditional wisdom principles helped guide online behavior. The Heritage Respecter certification had become as valued as blue-check verification, with influencers competing to demonstrate cultural understanding rather than shock value. Yuki Matsuda's research network had revealed unexpected applications of traditional wisdom in fields ranging from environmental conservation to conflict resolution. Ancient practices often contained sophisticated solutions to problems we're still grappling with, she explained in a United Nations address. Her work had spawned a new academic field, Traditional wisdom studies. The business world had undergone its own transformation. Major corporations now maintained wisdom councils, staffed by traditional practitioners who guided decisions about ethical technology use and sustainable business practices. Several Fortune 500 companies had established meditation rooms based on Tea House principles, reporting significant improvements in employee well-being and productivity. Takeshi's role had evolved while remaining fundamentally unchanged. Though he still maintained his post with unwavering dedication, his presence had become a living symbol of tradition's relevance in the modern world. Young guardians in training studied not just his techniques, but his ability to remain centered in an increasingly chaotic world. The legal framework for cultural preservation had matured into a sophisticated global system. The Tea House laws now included provisions for protecting intangible cultural heritage, ensuring that traditional wisdom could be preserved while remaining accessible to those who sought to learn from it. As the summit continued, Director Sato led a special tour of the new Traditional Wisdom Archive, a state-of-the-art facility that documented and preserved ancient practices while studying their modern applications. "Our mission," he explained, "is to ensure that traditional wisdom remains a living force in shaping humanity's future." The day concluded with a remarkable demonstration. Thunder, gray but dignified, demonstrated alongside a young dog how traditional training techniques could transform aggressive behavior into balanced confidence. The audience watched in amazement as the same whistle technique that had stopped Thunder 18 months ago now helped guide a new generation of animals toward harmony. 2 years after the incident that changed everything, the Shimizu Tea House prepared for a historic ceremony. The morning sun cast long shadows across the ancient courtyard where tradition had triumphed over arrogance, and cherry blossoms danced in the spring breeze just as they had on that fateful day. Director Sato stood before an assembled crowd of international dignitaries, cultural leaders, and media representatives. Behind him, a new wing of the Guardian Wisdom Institute gleamed in the morning light, its architecture seamlessly blending traditional elements with modern design. "Today," he announced, "we celebrate not just the memory of a moment, but the birth of a global movement." The ceremony marked the official recognition of the Tea House Guardian tradition as a UNESCO intangible cultural heritage, ensuring its preservation for future generations. Takeshi, still maintaining his post with unchanging dignity, had become the living embodiment of this honored tradition. His whistle technique, while remaining a closely guarded secret, had inspired a worldwide renaissance in traditional wisdom studies. Thunder, now in his elder years but still carrying himself with quiet dignity, made his final public appearance alongside Jun Wang. The transformed show dog had become a legend in animal behavior circles, his case studied in veterinary schools worldwide. Dr. Sakura's research, sparked by his remarkable change, had revolutionized understanding of animal psychology. "What we witnessed that day," Dr. Sakura explained to the assembled crowd, "was more than a moment of conflict resolution. It was the awakening of ancient wisdom in our modern world." Her research center, now the leading institution for studying traditional animal handling techniques, had documented over 1,000 cases of successful behavioral transformation using methods inspired by the Guardian tradition. Marcus Chen, completely transformed from his influencer days, sat quietly in the audience. His documentary series on traditional wisdom had won multiple international awards, and his cultural education programs were now standard curriculum in schools worldwide. "My greatest achievement," he had written in his best-selling memoir, "was learning to listen to the silence that speaks louder than any viral video." The impact on global digital culture had become permanent and profound. Social media platforms now required cultural sensitivity certification for content creators, while AI systems trained in traditional wisdom principles helped guide online behavior. The term Tea House respect had entered the global lexicon, symbolizing the perfect balance between tradition and progress. Yuki Matsuda, now a leading voice in cultural preservation, presented findings from her global research network. Traditional practices were being successfully integrated into fields ranging from conflict resolution to environmental conservation. "The whistle that stopped thunder," she noted, "started a wave of understanding that continues to grow. The business world had undergone its own revolution. Major corporations routinely consulted with traditional wisdom practitioners, while tech companies incorporated ancient principles into their ethical guidelines. The Shimizu model of respectful progress had become a standard case study in business schools worldwide. Director Sato unveiled the final element of the ceremony, a memorial marking the spot where the incident occurred. The elegant stone marker bore an inscription in multiple languages. Here, in one moment, tradition reminded the world of its enduring wisdom. May all who pass this place remember that true strength lies not in disruption, but in harmony. As the ceremony concluded, Thunder made his way to the marker, accompanied by Jun Wang. The once aggressive show champion now moved with the calm dignity of a Zen master, his transformation still inspiring new generations of animal behaviorists. He paused briefly at the spot where everything had changed, seeming to acknowledge the profound impact of that moment. Takeshi, having completed his shift, joined the gathering for the first time. His presence, as always, carried the weight of centuries of tradition. The gathered crowd fell silent as he approached Thunder, the two main characters in this remarkable story meeting one final time. No whistle was needed now. They shared a moment of perfect understanding that spoke volumes about the journey they had inspired. The sun set on this historic day, casting golden light across the tea house grounds. The cherry blossoms continued their eternal dance, just as they had for centuries before and would for centuries to come. But now they fell upon a world forever changed by a single moment when ancient wisdom had proven its timeless relevance. Director Sato's closing words echoed through the courtyard. The story that began here continues in every moment we choose wisdom over spectacle, respect over arrogance, and harmony over chaos. May the whistle that stopped thunder continue to awaken hearts and minds for generations to come. As the crowd dispersed, the tea house settled back into its timeless routine. Takeshi's replacement took his post, continuing the unbroken chain of guardianship. The world had changed, but the eternal principles that guided this sacred space remained constant, a reminder that some wisdom truly is timeless. Up next, you've got two more standout stories right on your screen. If this one hit the mark, you won't want to pass these up. Just click and check them out. And don't forget to subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you don't miss any upload from us.